book lovers, it is GSwiz here, and I'm here today to talk about some books that I want to reread in 2021. So it's really funny because over the years, I've always struggled with the idea of rereading. I thought to myself, I'll reread things if I need to. At the end of the day, I don't know, I don't see the point considering I have a huge TBR. And I think to myself now, all I want to do is reread. There are so many books that I have loved over the years that I want to re-experience. And for some reason, I feel like I can never get the same level of love and appreciation that I do from a book and from a book that I'm rereading. And yeah, I know that's a horrible way of thinking because obviously I want to try new things out. But these days I crave rereading more than I've ever craved rereading in my entire life. There are some books that I do want to reread in 2021. This being said, I have to try to make sure that I'm prioritizing my to be read because at the moment, I don't know, I think it's because I've recently reread one of my favorite series. I'm just in such a mood for rereading and re-experiencing the characters that I love, the stories that I love. Also, there are a couple of books on this list that I'm also planning to give a second chance as well. So I guess without further ado, I'm gonna get into this list so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. The first book I'm gonna mention that I definitely want to prioritize rereading this year is Jade City by Fonda Lee. Now the reason why I want to reread this book is because I don't remember a single thing about it. I read this during the Term Topple readathon and I kind of felt like I just wanted to move on to my next book. I didn't enjoy it as much as everybody else did, but I think it's because I was choosing to read it a little bit competitively. So like I just remember liking a few characters, but I don't necessarily remember the plot of this book, and so I just really want to reread this and kind of take my time with Jade City rather than going through this book for a readathon. That's what I'm going to decide to do. I'm going to decide to reread Jade City and take my time with it, and hopefully I'm going to enjoy it just as much as everybody else does. And the next book I'm going to be bringing up is Serpent Dove by Shelby Mahurin. Now, I actually tried starting Blood and Honey twice, and I was kind of enjoying starting Blood and Honey. I feel like it would have a better impact on me if I was to reread Serpent Dove. I have like a 50-50 kind of experience with Serpent Dove. It's gonna be a difficult one to get into because this book series technically has some sort of like religious traumatic scenes in it. It was really hard for me to read the first time, but it was a good book that got me thinking about a lot of things and also taught me a lot, but also made me feel kind of resonated with. And so I kind of want to give this series the benefit of the doubt, even though there are some themes in here that I don't really condone. These are actually important themes, but we kind of do need to open our eyes out to it and realize that it does happen. It does very much happen in this book, and I feel like Shelby did make some very interesting creative decisions when it came to the world of Serpent and Dove, but very challenging. Yeah, so this is going to be a very challenging book for me to read, and I want to reread this in the lead up to me reading Blood and Honey and then reading Gods and Monsters, which also comes out this year. Another book I want to read in the lead up to the sequel and the finale. Oh my goodness, it's actually finishing. The sequel and the finale is coming out in the middle of the year, but in the meantime, I do want to reread the first book, and that is The Princess Will Save You by Sarah Henning. I thoroughly enjoyed my reading experience of this. I just know that my second time is not going to be the exception. I am really going to enjoy this again because I still think about this book. I still think about the characters. I still think about the romantic scenes in here or like the fighting scenes. Just, oh man, just all the politics. I enjoyed this book so much, and I hate that this is not going to be a trilogy or more than that. It's just going to be a duology in the Kingdom of Sand and Sky. I just wish that I was able to read more about this kingdom. But yeah, no, that's fine. I will take what I can get. Queen Will Betray You comes out, I think, in June or July. So The Princess Will Save You just needs to be reread by me because I really loved it. It was one of the best books that I read last year, and hopefully it's one of the best books that I read this year, unless there are a lot of good books that I actually read this year. Who knows? And then I also want to reread Aurora Rising and Aurora Burning by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. I know that there are recaps at the very beginning of these books. That's what I went into Aurora Burning with. I actually just read the recap and did not read the entirety of the first book. But I feel like this year, I don't know, does the finale come out this year? Or does the finale come out next year?
What up, book lovers? Literally 2 minutes ago, it was announced that the finale is coming out in November. So yes, I will be rereading these books this year.
I remember previously J. Kristoff had books being pushed back because he had another book release in a year, and I know that The Empire of the Vampire, his new book, is gonna come out this year, so I don't know if that affects this book. I do remember enjoying Aurora Burning, even though the ending really shocked me just as much as everybody else. I do mostly want to reread Aurora Rising because I wanted to reread this book before the sequel, but I didn't. I just read the recap at the very beginning of this book, so I'm gonna make it happen. And now the next book that I want to reread is actually a book that I read for the first time, I'd say 5 years ago. I didn't enjoy it when I first read it. It wasn't a book that I liked at all. I actually found myself really bored while reading it. I don't remember why, to be honest. I want to give this series a second chance. Let's see how it goes. I'm talking about Edinburgh the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I don't really have motivation to pick this book series up. I feel like I just gotta give it a second chance. I don't know, it wasn't necessarily the most entertaining book for me to read back then, and I don't even remember why. Maybe I just read it at the wrong time, I don't know. But what I do know is that so many of my booktube friends like this series a lot. The conclusion came out last year. I'm still waiting for the conclusion to come in a matching paperback, like in height here in Australia, before I decide to collect the entire series. Really feel like I need to give it a second chance. And I think what's even more dangerous is that I bought the next 2 books in the series as well, so I could potentially binge read the series. Let's see if I like it first. I'm hoping that I like it and it's just as good as what everybody says it is. That is all I have to say. I don't know what else to say about this book series because I barely know anything about it, to be honest. I just know that a bunch of people wear masks. I mentioned this in my manga TBR video, but I really want to get to rereading Berserk. Berserk is probably one of the best manga series I've ever read. I love this series so much, and if you guys don't know, it's still going. The author hasn't wrapped up the story because he keeps on going on hiatuses. Fans have been frustrated for years, and I've only just been in the fandom for the last year and a half. This being said, now that I'm caught up, and now that I am following it chapter by chapter now, and it takes a while for him to post a new chapter. The hard part is trying to remember the story that came before it in full detail. What I am planning to do personally is read the deluxe manga bind-ups as they come out, which happen like every few months. Right now, as I'm filming this video, they've currently published 6 bind-ups, and each bind-up contains 3 volumes of Berserk. Let's see if I can catch up to all those 6 and then read like the next 2. Really don't know how often they're going to be publishing the bind-ups this year. I would really love to reread Berserk because I love the story. I really do. I definitely want to re-experience it, but also I want to remember everything I possibly can remember about this world because everything in the story is so rich. And yet another book that I want to reread is a book that I read last year, and I was surprised that I actually enjoyed it. And the reason why is because when it comes to this author's books, they're usually hit or miss for me. Majority of them are misses, and that's kind of sad. But this being said, that hasn't really stopped me from wanting to give them more chances because their story ideas are pretty compelling. Story idea for Skyhunter was very compelling, and I ended up really loving Skyhunter. This book was very enjoyable. The packaging of this book is phenomenal. I just love it so much. Skyhunter by Marie Lu was a really good book, and it didn't necessarily make my absolute favorites list last year, but I just knew I really enjoyed it, and I was pleasantly surprised by it, and I just knew that I had to continue on with the series. I think it's a duology. There's going to be a sequel coming out this year. I kind of wish that it was a trilogy because this world I think deserves a trilogy. With Marie Lu's books, I kind of wish that they had more time to be expanded upon, and at times I feel like some of them are rushed. Like Warcross I felt like was rushed, but Skyhunter I think was a good pace. I just do think that it should have been a bit longer. This being said, I don't really have too many problems with Skyhunter. I actually really did enjoy it. And last but certainly not least, I keep on telling myself I want to reread the entire series, and I never do. I think it's because I'm so afraid of rereading the 3rd book. You have no idea. Yes guys, I reread this author's book 5 times last year, and I don't know if it's because that I'm having withdrawals from Divergent or not, but like I reread Chosen Ones literally 5 times. Even though Chosen Ones was really good, it was definitely worth reading 5 times. But with Divergent, it's a bit of a different story. I mean, like, I grew up with this series. The series is what got me into reading. I love the series, and I am a big defender of the series. I'm pretty much a hardcore stan. Legion is going to be really hard for me to reread because let's just say I connect with the protagonist on a very emotional level. Also, I pretty much relate to them on personality traits as well. Like, there's so much that I can relate to when it comes to the series. I love the series. I love its characters. I love the world. I love the concept of this universe, and I think that Veronica wrote this world so well. beautiful and these characters in a very good way, and I understand why a lot of people don't like the series or don't like the direction of it and can't forgive it, and also kind of associate it with its horrible movie adaptation. This is the series that really shaped me. I've been scared to commit to the entire trilogy when it comes to rereading it, but I think that 2021 being that it's 10-year anniversary, I think I've just gotta bite the bullet and do it. I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers, and yes, I'm hoping that I can find some very new books that I'd much rather prefer than reread the books that I have, but regardless, I'm really excited to experience some joy through rereading these books. If you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers. And also, I have social medias. I'm at gswizzelbooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also at Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
Started out with half and I flipped it into double. Started out with half and I flipped it into double.